This video was made possible by patrons like Alexandra S. Thanks, Alex. If you sign up now, you can get an exclusive TLDR lanyard absolutely free. Find out more at the end of the video. Besides the US dollar, there are relatively few global currencies, with the only currency really attempting to erode the dollar supremacy being the euro, the official currency of the European Union. All member states, barring those with opt-outs, are actually required to abandon their national currencies and adopt the euro, making it the de facto currency of the Union, although there are a few countries who aren't part of the EU and use the euro without permission, something we'll discuss later. Anyway, while the majority of EU countries have adopted the euro, a significant number are holding out, including Bulgaria. So, in this video, let's discuss why Bulgaria hasn't yet made the switch to the euro, how that could change in the coming years, and why some countries just give up on the entire process in the first place. To get straight into it, the likes of Bulgaria haven't yet switched to the euro due to how arduous and long-winded the process for joining is. Any switch of currency is fraught with difficulty. Fixing an exchange rate to convert the likes of saving accounts from the old currency to the new one, deciding how long or even if both currencies are to circulate together for a while before withdrawing the old one, and even more overlooked things such as changing parking machines and vending machine cash sensors. Joining the euro is even more complicated. Specifically, countries must meet what is known as the Convergence Criteria. In its simplest form, the criteria requires a country to be prepared to adopt the euro on 4 counts. The country must have price stability, sound and sustainable public finances, exchange rate stability, and stable long-term interest rates. The logic being that a country must prove that they're not going to be a drag on the rest of the eurozone by either eroding confidence in the single currency or relying on the single currency and the single currency alone to fix a country's finances. As late as June 2020, the European Central Bank produced a convergence report covering all countries wishing or expected to join the euro, which didn't exactly paint Bulgaria's progress towards the convergence criteria in a positive light. Specifically, in March of that year, the 12-month average rate of inflation stood at 2.6%, way above the 1.8% reference value for that period. Whilst in compliance in 2019, Bulgaria's budget balance and debt was expected to suffer a significant deterioration in light of the pandemic. Added to this, the report remarked that Bulgarian law does not comply with all the requirements for central bank independence, the monetary finance prohibition, and legal integration into the euro system. Although, on more positive notes, whilst not formally part of the euro waiting room, the Bulgarian lev was successfully pegged at 1.96 levs per euro, something it would have been required to do as part of the waiting room anyway, and, over the reference period of April 2019 to March 2020, long-term interest rates stood at 0.3%, well within the 2.9% mark designated by the ECB. To be fair to Bulgaria, June 2020 was a unique period globally, and in previous reports by the European Central Bank, Bulgaria had actually met the inflation target, leaving only legal compatibility and actually being a member of the Euro waiting room, known formally as the Exchange Rate Mechanism 2, for 2 years. In July last year, Bulgaria, alongside Croatia, finally joined that Euro area waiting room, the Exchange Rate Mechanism 2, following an agreement by the influential yet informal grouping of Euro area finance ministers, the European Central Bank, and then only member of the ERM2, Denmark. All agreed that Bulgaria and Croatia had taken significant steps towards meeting the criteria outright. ERM2 in effect mimics membership of the euro. The country's currency, in this case the Bulgarian lev, is pegged to the euro at an agreed exchange rate, with a 15% fluctuation either way allowed. The country's central bank is subsequently required, when necessary, to intervene to keep the currency within that band. Before being able to adopt the euro, they must spend at least 2 years in the exchange rate mechanism, add in some time for the ECB to collect data, and some more time for the Commission and Member States to make a political decision, and it puts the earliest point of adoption somewhere in 2023. Bulgaria has, regardless, already announced a plan and a date, January 1st, 2024. In a statement in late June, both the government and Bulgaria's central bank stated categorically that Bulgaria plans to start taking payments in euro without any transitional period as soon as it joins, with banks accepting the lev for a further month as the system gets flushed out. So that's Bulgaria's plan, and we'll have to keep an eye on the country to see if they're successful at controlling their currency in the waiting room, and if all of the timelines are met. All this begs the question though, why would any country go through this arduous process of joining the euro? Well, they don't have to. Countries have and do use the euro without the permission of the European Union, specifically Kosovo and Montenegro, with 4 other territories using the euro with some sort of monetary agreement with the EU: Andorra, Monaco, San Marino and the Vatican City. It's not the case though that the leaders of Montenegro and Kosovo woke up one day and decided unilaterally to drop their national currency in favour of the euro, as neither actually had their own domestic currency in the first place. As we discussed in our video on Kosovo, their declaration of independence in 2008 isn't the most widely recognised declaration in history, and, in any case, a new independent nation doesn't come in neatly arranged bundles with its own currency to begin with. Rather, Kosovo, as an immediate interim measure, approved the use of foreign currencies to finance transactions in the country. Very, very quickly the people of Kosovo informally and unilaterally adopted the German Deutschmark, the issue being that in 2002 the German Deutschmark was no more. In the same fashion that Bulgaria is trying to adopt the euro, in 2002 Germany did adopt the euro, meaning the Deutschmark was slowly but surely removed from circulation. Given the widespread use of the Deutschmark in Kosovo, and the fact that the DM was being withdrawn, Kosovo had to take a decision on what to do, and so the EU, who didn't actually sanction the move or adoption of the euro, alongside the United Nations interim mission in Kosovo, provided logistical support for a transition to the euro. When it comes to Montenegro, the story runs along quite similar lines, albeit starting slightly differently. Having been part of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Montenegro did actually have a domestic currency, the Yugoslav dinar, the issue being it wasn't very good. In January 1994, monthly inflation reached 313 million%, with commentators explicitly referencing the monetary condition, i.e. the currency that allowed hyperinflation to set in. And so a better currency had to be found, with one of the strongest and closest currencies on hand being, once again, the German Deutschmark. And so, to get the economy and inflation under control, the Deutschmark was adopted, and, yet again, when the Deutschmark became the euro, Montenegro invariably adopted the euro too. And, as we covered in our dedicated video on Montenegro's relationship with the European Union, the EU weren't best pleased with the move. In 2007, the EU's finance ministers warned that Montenegro's unilateral adoption and use of the euro ran counter to EU law, for the simple fact that there is a defined process to get a country ready for the euro, which Bulgaria is trying to do. Going back to the issue of the Convergence Criteria, for now, the EU hasn't moved to completely shut down Kosovo and Montenegro's use of the euro, as the logic of the criteria doesn't really apply. The European Central Bank, in charge of keeping the currency stable, only really takes into account factors within official euro area countries, and given Montenegro and Kosovo are completely tiny, their decisions are unlikely to ever be influenced by developments in either nations. It's when a much larger country, such as Bulgaria, comes into the frame that the use of the euro, even unilaterally, can have major knock-on impacts and force the ECB's hand into reaching developments outside its remit. In any case, Bulgaria is, for now, following the established path to adopting the euro. But what do you think? When, if ever, will Bulgaria ditch the lev? Should they? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As I said at the start of the video, we're running a Patreon promotion whereby every patron paying more than $5 a month can get an absolutely free, never for sale lanyard. To claim yours, just sign up to the TLDR Patreon and then click the link to the store. Signing up not only snags you a lanyard, but also gets you other perks like early access to videos, exclusive live events, merch discounts and more. Find out what you can get and sign up by clicking the link in the description below.